That was actually true because I want us to even pivot to like Donald Trump now, right? In the sense that in his first term, he made a lot of statements that he was going to do. He said he was going to ban radical Islamic terrorists from coming to the country. He's going to build a wall. Mexico will pay for it. He's going to, deport and all those other things, right? But then when he eventually got into power, some people like Carter, for example, were like, he was not as radical when it came to like actually doing the work in implementation as his statements were.
Yes.
Unlike someone like Ron DeSantis that was maybe not so charming or as expressive as Donald Trump, or when you look at
more radical in his actions.
Yeah, exactly. When you look at Ron DeSantis' policies in Florida, and with Donald Trump's policies, Ron DeSantis was like much more right wing.
It was like the devil.
Yeah, extreme right wing, if you want to call it that. Right.
Now,
like
let me just add one stat to what you're saying.
I think,
Biden has deported more people than Donald Trump.
Interesting.
And Biden never spoke about it.
Never spoke about it.
I'll have
in fact, he wants more people to come in.
Interesting. I have to check that because that's busting my head right now. But I know that Obama, is the highest deporter in history. Right. So yeah, I think you guys are right in the sense that they try to make their message very simplistic, but actual practicality is not
as simple as
straightforward as that. Yeah. So, but then in this coming Donald Trump's second tenure, there are a lot of like postulations of what he's going to do, like in terms of geopolitics with like Russia, Ukraine war. I think just not too long ago, Ukraine were firing rockets into Russia. Russia just mistakenly, shut down. And Azerbaijan was it?
Yes.
An Azerbaijan plane, because they thought it was an Ukrainian fighter jet or something. So what is it going to do with like the Ukraine-Russia war? Just like in summary points, what do you think is going to happen, like in terms of geopolitics, Ukraine-Russia war, Israel-Hamas conflict, right? And with China as well, right?
Yeah.
And handling with China, it's talking about tariffs.
Then migration.
What exactly is going to happen? Yeah, and then in the domestic front, like in terms of migration and trans rights, he has also been very outspoken about banning women from men's sports and all of that. What exactly will you postulate that Trump can accomplish right in his second tenure as compared to the first?
I think one thing that Trump has going for him is that people actually believe his rhetoric.
Yeah.
I don't believe his rhetoric, but people believe his rhetoric.
Yeah.
So, and it's going to play positively for him in terms of geopolitics.
Yeah.
For example, I'm hearing reports that Ukraine and Russia are trying to, gain as much ground as they can before he comes into power. So they are kind of setting the mood for like possible talks because they feel like this guy is a crazy man.
Yeah.
So they believe him. So both of them are working fast to make sure that I gain enough ground before he comes so that we can
negotiations
meet and negotiate.
Yeah.
And even Israel too is also like looking to clear as much as possible before the inauguration because they feel like he might stop them from doing anything else. Yeah. And in terms of that's a positive. If he's able to do that, that's a very good one.
Even will he stop Israel? He's more like an Israeli fundamentalist as well.
Yeah, Israel, I think under his administration, it was quite quiet in the Middle East.
Yeah, because his rhetoric is that he doesn't want anybody, he doesn't want any issues.
Yeah,
so he has been attacking the Biden administration for not doing enough to stop the issues.
So what about in China? What do you say?
In China, I think
he's
still going to go because Biden actually continued Trump's, tariff wars. I think Trump is going to do that because now they're even having much more things to fight about. Because China is now starting to become like very closer to the US than they were before. Now they are leading in EVs. They're leading in like production of batteries.
Yeah.
And now they even do, I think more recently they talked about like stopping germanium and two other major components of the electrical industry like from coming to the US. The US doesn't have enough control over. So we're going to see more of those fights between those two countries. Yeah. And I think that that would probably determine how China and US relations will go.
Yeah. Adenji, what do you think?
For Donald Trump, his internal policies,
I
think with his Elon Musk support especially, the way Elon Musk is trying to push for government efficiency to make the government work better for the people, right? So I'm thinking he's going to work on cutting down government spending.
Yeah.
So as to because America is heading towards cliff right now. Their foreign debt is so high.
Like more $33 trillion there.
So high.
It's a lot.
And it's too much. I don't think they've ever run a trade surplus ever before. It's always like always in trade deficit, the budget deficits rather, not the trade. So I think he's going to work on that. He's going to cut a lot of unnecessary things, according to him.
Nice disclaimer.
According to him, move away from these left-wing policies of the Biden administration, where they say something, but then they are doing doing other things. And I also think that regarding immigration, it's also going to be much more stern about immigration. There will be a lot of stopping of the illegal migration patterns into America. There's been a lot of talks from people from Haiti moving in, Guatemala, from the Mexicans. Even the recent social media discourse now is even about the Indian.
Even that's legal migration.
This is even the legal migration aspect now. The Indians' encroachment into the coming into the American tech industry. So there will be a lot of I'm guessing now projecting a lot of policies on that aspect. So he wants to cut down on immigration, net immigration. Eventually, it's going to cut down.
Funny enough, like even Canada and UK are also cutting down on legal migration
because there is now a lot of growth of these right-wing politics. People are angry that they are being replaced.
The great perspective of
So they are angry. The European/Western population, the white people, they are angry that they are being replaced by non-whites, and those ones are bringing in their culture, they're importing their beliefs. They are not acclimatizing to what they found in their host country. They are going against. Some of them are running some weird politics. They are also bringing in more of their people, and they don't want that. They want to work. They want to, the host countries, the Europeans. They want to work. They want to feel that the government is for them.
Exactly.
Why is the government spending money more on the outside than the inside? Look at the government's response to the tropical storm. The recent hurricane storm that happened.
I think it was in North Carolina.
What the government spent on emergencies efforts was way less than what they gave out in foreign aid. Doesn't make sense. Why would the government not? Your government should fight for you as a citizen. That's what the government is for.
But
it should be populistic.
But that's nuanced in the sense that like the foreign aid you're referring to is Ukraine and Israel. Weapons are more expensive than emergency responses. So like what is more important is did the government do enough to respond? Because I feel like it was every
there's also these statistics that like the amount of foreign aid in the US is like 2% of the budget thereabouts. I have to confirm that, but it's very low. As compared to where people broadcast it as is one kind of massive expense.
Because like it's normal for like political actors to want to champion like the government is spending on the wrong places. It's true. The US has made itself like that. I think I mentioned in one of my episodes. The US is the one that decided to be the world's police. Nobody sent it. So like if the US doesn't want to do, they should tell everybody else and we'll be fine. We'll not move on.
So but when it comes to like geopolitics, like his relationship with China and with the wars going on in Ukraine and
in his first tenure, his relationship with China was more of double-faced. When he's at home, he criticizes China. But when he goes on a foreign trip to China, he he praises him. He does he says all sorts. Praises him. When he comes back up, he increases the tariffs. So his policy is I'm not really going to say this is exactly what he's going to say, but I know the overall effect will still be to protect the American industry. He wants to get the working Americans back. He wants to get the factory working. He wants to build America's manufacturing sector, which is very expensive to maintain because of the the dollar being the global currency. So you can't really manufacture a lot of things. You have to if you're going to manufacture anything in America, that's something very sophisticated. You can't do basic again because it's very expensive to do basic. You have to just export out the basic to countries like China. So you still need China. You fight your tariff wars, but you still need them eventually.
Because at the end of the day, they were the ones that decided to move manufacturing to China to save money.
But that was the companies, not necessarily the government per se.
True.
But then, like when it comes to the wars, like especially with like the way Russia seems to be weakened now. Earlier on, we're doing this campaign, it was like he was pushing some form of like anti-Ukraine sentiments or anti-Zelensky sentiments. He and some of the right-wing media commentators, right?
Yeah.
They were like anti-Zelensky somewhat. So do you feel like, especially now that Russia is looking very weak, especially with Syria, they could not really defend Assad's government in Syria.
Russia looks weak.
Yeah.
Is losing some what do I call it, foreign partners.
Yeah, even it's bringing North Korea
gaining
soldiers.
some. For instance, okay, fine. Maybe Russia's influence in Syria, the Syria civil war, has weakened. You know, the rebels have been supported by the Western governments, supported in quotes. They've been able to come into power. You know, they've removed Bashir Assad, whose family has been there for decades.
Yeah.
But in African continent, Russia was able to come in after the French government was sent out from Niger Republic. Russia has they've gained influence in that aspect. But Russia also during the war, I think they used their wits to gain influence everywhere, around the country, around the world, giving out their wits in exchange for more influence and power. There's not really been a lot of, but regarding the Israeli-Palestinian war now, I think what Trump is going to do regarding that would be, he might still follow in line with the Biden regime. There's not really going to be change. Maybe you're going to be softer.
Do you really see him being softer or more radical?
Trump, technically, in terms of foreign influence, I don't really see him. He says a lot of things, but the policies don't really match up to what he says.
What he's saying,
he says a lot.
He presents this strongman attitude, but the policies present a more balanced.
Just like we said with Ron DeSantis and him.
They don't really match up.